Hi, welcome to Titan Reloading. My name is Michael, and today we are going to talk about the new APP, or Automatic Processing Press from Lee Precision. In this video, I'm going to want to talk about what you can do with this press, why you may be interested in this press, and a little bit of a review. Though, with the review, just note, we've only had our hands on this press for about 2 weeks, and the swage kit, we got our first shipment of those yesterday, so I've only been able to run about 200 rounds through on the press. So not a whole lot of time has been able to been put into putting together a decent review. But we'll talk a little bit more about the results that I got in a bit. The Lee APP press was designed to allow you to more quickly and efficiently handle many of the processing steps that are used while reloading. You can do things like depriming your cases, sizing them, swaging primer pockets, using the Lee bulge busting kit, and even size your lead cast bullets with this press. The other thing that it does with the swaging is allows you to do it in a faster method than a lot of the systems that are currently out there, and far cheaper than some of the more progressive style swaging kits that you can get. So I'm just gonna go through and decap some of these 7.62 by 51 or 308 Winchester brass casings with the depriming die that was included with the swage kit, just to give you an idea of this press in work. So there you have it. Lee Precision uses their breech lock bushing system in this to allow you to more quickly make your changes. So at the top here, there is a bushing, and all I gotta do is turn, pull out my die. Anybody that uses the Lee breech lock bushing system is gonna be very familiar with this. Now, going in here is the swaging die. And what this does is basically has a punch that pushes the brass casing down. And anytime you are putting a die in the top, you do want to hold the handle, as if you just push it down, this whole thing's going to move. So definitely going to want to get a hold of that, turn it on. The instructions for this, you are going to put a wrench on there in order to make the change, but I'll do that off camera. Very similarly, Lee also uses the same bushing system in the bottom as well. So all I have to do, turn this, pull it out, and then take the actual swaging tool and put it in. I do only have one number 2 shell holder, so I'm gonna have to switch it out on here, which is not overly difficult to do, but I don't feel like wasting your time on camera. So just give me a moment and we'll get it switched over. I have the press changed over to begin swaging our 308 7.62 by 51 NATO brass. And while I do that, I am going to talk a little bit about my initial measurements using it. So the non-swaged primer pockets, the crimp was forcing the caliper to come to a measurement of 0.204. In that area was probably the average. After swaging the primer pockets, I was getting a measurement of 0.21, which is perfectly acceptable by Sammy for your large primer pockets. So you can see this press is pretty quickly and easily handling the swaging process. Really no complaints as far as this goes. So as you can see, the press does run pretty smoothly. There are going to be hiccups every now and then that are going to require small adjustments. For instance, the jaws down here, you do have to play with the tension on them. I found going back and forth between smaller and larger cases, they'll want to hold instead of allowing the larger ones to drop in. So some adjustments that you'll have to make if you're making a lot of changes. And with adjustments in mind, I do want to talk a little bit about the automation kit. If you purchase the deluxe system, you do get the automation kit included. And to be honest, there really isn't a whole lot of reason to get this without the automation kit. Without it, you're going to be putting them in one by one, so you might as well keep doing it the way that you currently are. But there's a lot of pieces to this. Now, as you can see, there's the tube support that I have installed right now. There are 2 sides to the tube support. one for a larger tube, and then this one has a smaller tube for if you're doing incredibly small bullets, or actually I can't even imagine a brass casing that would fit in there. But in addition to that, there is another included tube support, which means that you have roughly about 4 tubes that you'll have to pick through. Luckily for me, the 2 brass casings that I was using both fit in the same tube. So all I had to do was adjust for the height. Speaking of height, there are some risers that are going to go on top of this slide bar here. There are 5 of them. Now, the riser that you use is going to be based upon the height of the projectile that you're using. Obviously, a 308, being a pretty tall case, is going to be using the tallest of them. If you're doing a 9mm, you're going to be using a much shorter riser. The other thing is there are, as you can probably see on this one here, there are close-ended and open-ended risers. You're going to have to choose the right one based on if you are doing bullets, because you need something to hold it steady before it can drop into the sizing kit, or open-ended, which will allow the bullets to pass through without being jerked back to the automation kit. So the automation kit has the most involved part of the setup with this press. All in all, just make sure that when you are going to be doing any process, swaging 308s, sizing 308s, depriming, just try to do all of the 308s. And with me mentioning sizing 308, I do want to bring this up real quick. So obviously when you are depriming, swaging, you are going to be able to make use of the X-Press shell holder, which is open-ended on both sides to allow the cases to go through. It is very important to note that the Lee instructions say if you are sizing bottleneck cases that you are going to want to use the universal shell holder. And the reason for it is the amount of friction that this case is going to have in the die is going to be incredible when you are sizing. And there is a very, very, very good chance, cannot stress very enough, obviously, when you try to remove this case from the die, that this case is just going to rip out of the X-Press shell holder, and now you're going to have a stuck case. And that's not a situation that you want to find yourself in. So that is why with this here, you can fit your regular universal shell holders. And if you are full length sizing, it is absolutely imperative that you do so just to save yourself some future headache. So now for the review that I talked to you about. I do want to mention right out the bat, again, I've only had my hands on this press for about 2 weeks, so I don't have a long, in-depth review. But what I can tell you is what I have done on this press, which is depriming 9mm, depriming 308 762 by 51, and swaging primer pockets, that I found it very easy to work with. There haven't been a whole lot of issues that have cropped up that I haven't been able to solve by double checking the instructions and ensuring that I have this set up the proper way. As I mentioned with the swaging portion of it, it is swaging them to a good size. I've set some primers and they go in very well. So no complaints about it that way. The only thing that I do want to stress is that you do read the instructions when you're setting it up, because there are a few things that you might just look at and be like, I can get away by not changing this or by adding that, and the instructions tell you why you want to do it the way they are instructed. That's all I can really say about the press. I'm absolutely going to be using this in the future to swage any 223, 556, or 762 308 brass. It is by far the most convenient system that I have found to do that with. So as always, if you found this video to be helpful, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, leave them down below. And as always, happy reloading.